next lecturer, and a gentleman who needs no introduction whatsoever. His topic today is lessons I learned from my teachers. A very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Bill Irvine, MBE.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're going to have a little trip down memory lane. I was very fortunate to have been taught by some of the originators of technique. My first teachers, I have been asked this question many times: who taught you to dance? And so I took the opportunity of this lecture of paying respect and thanks to the people who taught me. My first teachers were from Glasgow in Scotland. The names were Alex and Peggy Provan. They were absolutely wonderful, wonderful teachers. Peggy was an expert technician. And I remember on my very first lesson that I had for my associate examination, she said, "Bill, the first thing you must remember, when you build a house, the first thing you build, you put down the fundaments. You make a fundament and you build your house from the fundament and you build it up. Some people, unfortunately today, start at the roof to come down. I was taught to do it from the feet up. Now, when I was having my technique lessons, one thing that Peggy made very, very, very strong, she said, what you are doing, understand why you are doing it, and try to say in the examination what you are doing. Now, I'm going to, first of all, introduce the two rather beginners that are going to help me today, Marcus Hilton and Bobby Irvine. Now, I'm going to start by using the basic natural turn in the foxtrot. This will give you some idea of how you should be trained for an examination, but also when this training is ingrained into your body, when you are under stress in a championship, it doesn't show. You can do it well, and you can repeat it every time. Now, for example, we take a very simple figure like the heel pull in the foxtrot. Now, heel pull can be danced in the waltz and in the quick step. Now, Peggy said, now, Bill, when you take your foot back, say everything you can say about that foot, then stop. Start on the other foot. For example, when you move the left foot back for heel pull, you take the left foot back with first the ball, then the toe, then the ball of the foot in contact with the floor, releasing the toe of the front foot from the floor. From there, you move the right foot back with first the heel, then the inside edge of your foot on the floor. I was not allowed to look down to see if my feet are actually parallel. I know they are parallel. You complete the turn on the heel of the left foot, transferring the weight onto the right foot at the completion of the turn. The left foot is then brought towards the right foot with the inside edge of the foot, moving it forward onto the heel. Now, that was what we had to do. So you moved it back. You could feel 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Of course, when you dance the same step in the waltz, it is the inside edge of the toe, not the inside edge of the foot. And when you dance the same step in the quick step, because of the speed of the music, you go straight through onto the heel. If we take a very simple step, like a heel turn, it gets the same treatment. Move the right foot back with first the ball, then the toe, then the ball of the foot in contact with the floor. Finish. Release the toe of the left foot from the floor. Slowly lowering the back heel, you bring the right foot back with the heel in contact with the floor. You complete the turn on the heel of the right foot, closing your left foot to your right foot and transferring the weight onto the left foot at the completion of the turn. Then step forward with your feet tracking beautifully into position. Now when you take the heel pull, and you're going to follow that with a very simple figure, which you never see today, called hover feather. Now, the hover feather, when you have completed the heel pull, instead of coming in with the inside edge of the foot, she said to me often, "Now, Bill, what are you going to do now?" I said, "I'm going to press the toe of the right foot on the floor." She said, "Right, do it. Toe of right foot, inside edge of toe of left foot, going through into your hover feather, which would be toe, toe heel, and heel." Now, when you talk about the same step, what is built in? What is built in to a simple, basic step like this one? I'm going to take sway. There are basically 3 types of sway. There is the normal sway to the inside of the turn. When you dance a heel pull, there is a slight, or a change of direction, there is a slightly broken sway. And when you dance a hover feather, you sway to the moving foot, so you sway to the left. Those are the 3 main types of sway. Now, if you take this simple step, the natural turn in the foxtrot, you've got all 3 types of sway on that one step. You've got straight to the right when you do your natural turn. You've got a left sway when you dance your hover feather, a broken sway when you dance your heel pull, and you've got a sway to the left when you dance your hover feather. So a simple step like that has got so many beautiful components in it. So many beautiful components. Now, the brother-in-law of Peggy was a very keen golfer. Now, I know that many of you don't speak English, so I brought you a couple of visual aids that you can see. Now, he was a very keen golfer, and sometimes when the class was finished, he would stand in front of the mirrors practicing his swing. So there was always a golf club near somewhere in the studio. Now, I'm going to show you just a couple of ideas that we saw. Thank you. Now, I'm going to take, for example, a feather finish. Now, I'm going to tell you how this happens. There was a man his name was Frank Ford. The Frank Ford was one of the early originators. As a matter of fact, for your information, it was Frank Ford dancing with Molly Spain that changed the foxtrot by a mistake. In the old days, the open turn to the left was completed. Some people think it's a modern variation, but in the old days it was completed with a heel pull into a 3-step. And Frank Ford, the man I'm talking about now, one day when he was stepping back to do his heel pull, his foot caught the other foot and he took it to the side. That became the feather finish. But it changed the foxtrot, because in the older days, the feather step was curved strongly to the right, and the three step was turned strongly to the left. Now, when, of course, the feather finish became a part of the foxtrot, one other word came in here. It was called alignment, because this feather was turned to the left, not to the right. And also, to be able to keep contact with your partner, the body had to be turned less than the feet. And so, when I had a lesson with Frank Ford in Glasgow, he said, "Bill, you must learn to track your feet." Marcus, can I have the boy for a second? When the left foot is placed to the side and slightly forward, I need it because I'm going to step on this. Just stand there, just stand there. Now you can see how important this very simple exercise is. The left foot is pointing, drag to wall. You take your right foot forward. On the golf club, it's on one single line, which is called CBMP, contrary body movement. Now, when the next step goes forward, watch the foot going forward on one parallel line, but look how close my feet are. And the foot is not turned out. The foot is straight. Because if the foot, anticipating a reverse turn or a reverse wave, if the foot is turned out, that becomes a non-swinging foot, because I cannot swing to a turned out foot. So you've got to make sure that your feet are parallel. So when you get to that point here, that is on one line, that is on two lines, but I'm tracking my feet. Now I remember this man so well, because he wore the most beautiful pair of brown two-tone shoes. And he tracked his feet so beautifully on the floor. And he said, "Remember one thing, don't take your feet off the floor. That is your friend." Now soon after that, I'm trying to give you some of the most simple tips that I learned, not the difficult ones. I moved to London, and I went to have lessons with a very famous teacher called Henry Jakes. Now, when you went into the studio, there was a small waiting room with a curtain, and we had to sit waiting for the lesson. And this famous man, in those days, by the way, we always wore a properly cut suit for our lessons. So I was sitting there, very nervous, waiting for my lesson. And the little space in the curtain, and I was looking through this space at this man, this great teacher, giving a lesson. He was teaching a man called Jimmy Riley, and he walked his back towards the curtain. And he said, "James," he put his hold in. He said, "James, if you haven't got that, you have nothing." That was a lesson which was so valuable. If you haven't got that, you have got nothing. And as far as I'm concerned, that applies exactly the same today. Then it was my turn. I went in to have my lesson. I took my hold. Now I must say I was feeling very nervous. I took my hold, took my foxtrot, I took one step forward. "Stop, Bill, you have gone far enough." I had taken one single step. He says, "You are pushing your legs. You must learn to swing your legs." He said, "I'm going to give you a little exercise." So I had to step forward my left foot, retaining pressure on the toe of the right foot. Swing your right leg forward and backwards. Swing the right leg forward and backwards. And when the right leg passes the left leg, use the left leg to move your body. Now I had to practice that to get a swinging leg, not a pushing leg. A swinging leg, not a pushing leg. but retaining the pressure on the toe of the back foot. Now, if you look at my back foot, that back foot is still active. It is still working. And when the left leg passes the right foot, use the toes to move you forward. Feel how your toe is connected to your back. Your toe is connected to your back. Now, I could stay on this for many hours, but unfortunately, I've got 40 minutes. The next dance we had was the waltz. And he said to me, every teacher in those days always said the waltz is a lateral swinging dance. It is a lateral dance to close your feet. The expression forward and forward was never ever heard of. Never ever heard of. The other thing he insisted in the waltz, you never go down to down. You swing up and you swing down. You swing up and you swing down. But you never go down to down. So for example, some of the variations you see today, a left whisk, a chair, something else, completely out of the question. Now, I have asked Marcus and Bobby, I nearly slipped up there. It's a bit unusual, that. I'm going to ask them to do a short amalgamation. In Bournemouth, when I did a similar lecture today, he did a natural turn, an open impetus turn, a weave, a chassis, a spin turn, and a turning lock. But I'm sure some of you have seen that before, so I've asked them to do something else. Now, I want you to watch the swinging action in this beautiful waltz. They're going to dance a running spin turn, a side lock, a bounce fall away into an oversway. But you will see again, with a modern type of amalgamation, you will still see the lateral side swing, the side swing to the lock step, the side swing in the fall away. You will see all of those things in this simple amalgamation. Thank you, Marcus. I'll just leave it there.
Right there, so I'll drop down there.
Don't waste time, get on with it. Yes.
Nice round of applause, please. Thank you.
I'll catch a moonbeam to make you
Still going sideways.
snowflake
Now you got rotation.
to wear
Sideways for the overswing.
like
And the picture. And coming out. Yes, please. Once again. You notice he's going to swing his leg, then swing the body. Swing the leg and swing the body. A swinging leg, not a pushing leg. Thank you. Lovely the close, the hovering leg, the side movement, the fall away, and the tipple chassis. And now stop. Go back to your promenade position. Okay. Now, another simple tip that I learned from the same man was always line your head up to your feet. Always line your head up to your feet. They gave me two very simple points that lasted me through my entire career. He said, when you dance the promenade, make sure that your head is lined up to the toes of your right foot. And you don't pull up, you press down. You press down to go up. You press down to go up. And the funny way of saying this is very simple, but it's very, very effective and visual. Near the studio, when you looked out of the window, there was a row of houses. And he used to take me by the hand, and he says, now look at that. And it was a chimney, a Kamin, a Schornstein in Deutsch. A chimney, which is the smoke comes out of when you put the fire on. Now, a chimney inside is very dirty. So he said, Bill, always remember, when you dance a promenade position, like an impetus, it says, make sure your head comes out of the chimney without getting your ears dirty. Very simple, but if you think of it, you come out of the chimney by pressing down without getting your ears dirty. And my head is connected to the toes of my right foot. And when you dance a hover corte, you've got the same position, but your head is connected to the toes of your left foot. And you are there. Beautifully poised and beautifully balanced. Now, another point that Jake was very good at, when he put his hands on you, you could feel something happening. Now, my first lesson said to me, Bill, you must learn to stand as long as you can on a foot. The longer you stand, the further you will move. I had traveled 400 miles from Glasgow to London to be taught to move, and this man's telling me to stand. It didn't make sense. You stand to move more. But what he was making me think of was how to use my feet. How to use your feet to be able to fill it up. To connect your shoulders to your feet. Now what he did, and I want Marcus to dance with Bobby here. He would put his hands on me, and he would do a feather, reverse turn, and three-step. Now all he would do from here, he would connect my right shoulder to my right foot. He would connect my left shoulder to the left foot. He'd connect the right shoulder to the right foot. He'd connect the left shoulder, and he'd connect the right shoulder to the left foot. Now, if you had to do that with music now, you'll be able to see the lovely flowing constant action. All right then. He wants to be touched up. Foxtrot. Well, when he's looking for the foxtrot, do the waltz again. Oh, just the natural turn. You see, he would put his hand on my hip. Now this is basic CBM. He would swing the leg, connect the right shoulder, and swing the hip through. That was much better, Marcus.
Probably was very nice at that time.
We've got the music.
On time.
Use the feet. Swing the leg. Lift it up. Swing it back. Swing it through. Lift it up and swing it back. Head connected to the foot. Lovely. Lovely. Now we go to another man who was possibly one of my main teachers. His name was Eric Hancox from Manchester. Very difficult man, wonderful teacher, very knowledgeable, very, very, very clever. This man had almost a neurosis. He was neurotic on a feather finish. One thing he said, you never ever overturn a feather finish. Now I'm going to take the golf club again. Where is it? Now, I pointed earlier about the tracking of the feet. Now this is something you rarely see being done well today. A simple, basic feather finish. They all go, nearly everyone, when I sit up there and I look at the foxtrot, I could cry. I could cry sometimes with the basic problems. Now, if that's the wall, and I take a feather finish, and that pointing to the wall, that toe is pointing diag to wall. Now, when I take the next step outside partner, that golf club almost does not move, so that I can keep my center centered to my partner at all times, so that when you go through to the next step, you watch the golf club, you'll see the golf club coming square to do your three-step. Take it through. Now, that is an exactitude of technique, but it is so an important part of technique that, unfortunately, it is overlooked. Most people think it is almost unimportant. I see them dancing a simple check to weave in the corner, and they're coming out here. By the time they get to this position here, they've got nearly 5/8 of a turn to make when they go to diag to center. It is not difficult for the girl to stay with the man. It is not difficult. It is bloody impossible. It is impossible for the girl to stay with the man. Check it, and everything you do, check it. Now, I learned so much from Eric Hancock's, but one of the main things he always said, Bill, there are 3 different types of control in dancing. There is balance control, there is muscular control, and there is timing control. If you lose your balance control, you lose everything. Now, one of the reasons why people lose the balance control, they address the girl from the front. I did the same. They walk up to the girl and they put the front into the girl. The moment they do that, their back is shortened. Now, he made me aware of the fact that from your pelvis to your sternum, to the breastbone, that's got to be kept at all times constant. All times that's got to be kept constant, so that your back, that area of your back here, from your ribs to your hips, that is always kept open and long, even when you dance a picture. Even when you dance an overswear a picture, that's kept open and long. It is never short. It is never short. It is a muscular area, and that muscular area can soften. It is expressive, but you never close your ribs to your hips. When you make any turn, another Rick Hancock's expression, you must always take your hips up to the ribs. You never take your ribs away from your hips, so that you never separate your shoulder from your hip. You never separate shoulders from hips, because your sway starts in your feet, through your legs, and the sway that you see in the shoulder is made and developed here. It's developed in the bones, so the angle of your legs, that will change. I meant to go back to a very important lesson. You've heard a wonderful lecture today in tango, but when you think of, in the old days, the exactitudes that we had to learn, which has been marvelous for me and for my pupils. But I never forget the first tango lesson I had with Henry Jakes. He said, now, Bill, you take the left foot forward in a curved alignment, and you're going to count it, 1 and your right foot, I hope you understand this, your right foot will reach your left foot on the D of the word and. 1 and. Your heel actually comes to meet the other foot on the D of the word and. 1 and 1 and 1. Now, that was difficult to practice. Again, something you don't often see today. Now, I'm going to go back into another lady who gave us possibly one of the best lessons that helped us more than anything else. Her name was Connie Grant. She was a little lady, very small lady, from Sheffield, the other side of the Pennines from here. Now, in those days, we had a lot of problems, because we were the same height. And Bobby would often say, Bill, you feel short today. So I would stretch my neck to my full 5'8". I'd stretch it up. She said, you still feel short. And we had many arguments about this. And one day I was having a lesson with Connie Grant, and she put her hands under my body. And she said, pick it up. I know it sounds funny. She said, pick it up. So when I picked it up, Bobby said, that is perfect. I was so surprised. She hasn't said it's perfect since. That was the one and only time. But now when I was picked up, she asked me, she says, what did you do to pick your hips up? I said, I pressed the floor. She said, there is your answer. You press the floor to lift your hips up. Drop your arms, put your arms in position, get the girl slightly under your ribs, and you're in the perfect position to dance. The perfect position to dance. How am I for time? 5 minutes. Okay. Now, the same lady, and this was again, I was winning the tango, the royal we. We were winning the tango very, very comfortably. But I was being criticized for being physical. Scottish aggression came out in me. I stepped on that floor and I was going to kill them. I'd still do it today. Just like that. And she said to me many times, Bill, your tango is good, but it is physical. I knew it was physical. I could feel it was physical. And after the lesson was finished, I went to go back to my car, and as I was leaving the studio, I gave her the money. I think it was £2 in those days. A little more expensive today. I gave her the money, and I was walking away from her. I hope many of you will not understand this expression. She said, Bill, remember, you can crack a whip. And Foster, Mucci, you can crack a whip. You cannot crack steel. You cannot crack steel. Like that is steel. You cannot crack it. I drove down back to London and I thought about it. I knew exactly what was wrong. I had been actually forcing everything so much, it became slow. It wasn't fast. I went back to London and I changed my entire thinking in tango to crack a whip, not to crack steel. Make it feel. I continued to win the tango, but it became almost a rest dance. It wasn't a hard dance. The other wonderful tip I got from Len Scrivener, when he said to me, Bill, don't be afraid to stand still. Put something in, hold it. And he gave me another little tip, how to make a good link. He said, step, squeeze, and turn. Step, squeeze, turn. Step, squeeze, turn. Now what he was making me do, he was putting energy. He was putting that wonderful energy into my feet and legs before exploding it out. Put it in, take it out, stand still. Put it in, take it out, stand still. Now just before we finish, I want Marcus and Bobby to do one more thing in the foxtrot. I want you to do a feather, and I want you to watch when he actually gets to his reverse turn. I want you to watch how his left foot almost brushes to his right foot. Watch the closing of the tracks. And then he's going to go into a reverse wave. Watch how he presses down and how the legs will track under the body. Yes? I would do it, but Bobby will not dance with me. Thank you.
No pressure, no pressure.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a wonderful audience. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marcus and Karen.